Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the penultimate session of the conference. How's it all going for everyone? Having a good time? Yes. Did you enjoy the song? Lifted the mood a bit? Did you want to get up and dance? We won't get you to, don't worry. So this session is integrated learning, and it's all about how do you go about integrating those important parts of L&D and performance, like data, compliance, and talent and skills development. But ultimately, we're in a people profession, so how do we go about doing that? Can we have it all and change people's lives as well? Well, our next speaker is going to tell us exactly how you can achieve that. And I want you to give him a really warm welcome because he's a first-time speaker at Learning Technologies, and I know the amount of work that he's put in to make this a great session for you. So I'm really pleased to welcome to the stage, if you'll join me welcoming to the stage, Kevin Avis from Circle Healthcare.
Thank you very much. Firstly, thank you for coming. That's nice that you turned up, because you always expect there's probably going to be 5 people in the room, but there's more than 5, so that's a win already. So let me just introduce myself. My background is I was a youth worker. That was my bread and butter, and I spent time in the Highlands and Islands, in the southeast of England, in the West Country, and just spent time in random communities doing random things to get the best results. And that's really where I learned about people, and I fell in love with how people do things in an obscure but very interesting way. My background is I've worked in the third sector, the private sector, and always in heavily regulated sectors. This is if you're interested and that means anything to you, this is my academics. I've got a theology degree, so that was interesting, taught me how to think. Got an HR degree, but I did actually fail my employment law module, which I had to resit, so don't ask me anything about ER. And currently doing a psychology conversion. And a lot of my work has been around change, transformation, and change, and getting involved in I think it's fun and dirty work of trying to get someone from here to there, and that's been a lot of my work, really. And if you want to connect with me, I'm using a shameless platform, follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Twitter, and just this week I've launched a newsletter called The People's Periodical, which is just some highlights of things that I've picked up across the last month. So if you want to sign up to that newsletter, you're more than welcome to. I'll put that up at the end as well. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to look at the context of life-changing learning, tell you about Circle Health Group, how it works, getting compliance training right at all, and then looking to find the right tech and partners and what it means to make an impact with skills, data, and learning. So I have asked Stuart to be creative to find some nice tunes as you discuss this question. So if you're not sitting next to someone, maybe you want to go and find someone and ask this question, or if you want to be by yourself, it's absolutely fine. So what I'd like you to do is answer this question. What questions would you like to have the answer to by the end of this session? So either scan that QR code or go to menti.com and put in this code and just throw in some questions that you would like to have answers to. So Stuart, this is challenge 1. There was already a good song at the beginning. I'm interested in what the tune's going to be. Off you go. Great.
You see a faded sign at the side of the road that says 15 miles to the
Love Shack, yeah. I'm heading down the Atlanta highway, looking for the love, get away, headed for the love.
I'm going to break that.
I got me a car, it's as big as a well, and we're heading on down to the Love Shack. I got me a Chrysler, and it's about 20, so hurry up and bring your jukebox money.
The Love Shack is a little place where we can get together. Love Shack, baby.
So that's some good answers coming through. Where did you get that jacket? I'll tell you at the end.
Love shack, baby, love shack, love shack, baby, love
That's where it's at.
love shack, baby, love
That's where it's at. Sign says, stay away from
Okay, this is helpful. Keep them coming. Therese, when we film together, we can return to these at the end, can't we? These are good questions. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. Thank you, Stuart. I'm looking forward to the next song. So let me start by just saying I feel quite humbled to even be on a stage because I don't really feel that what we're doing is amazing or brilliant, but I think it's good. Do you know what I mean? I think it's good, and I think there's lots of different people that could be on this platform, and therefore I just kind of want to say there's something really powerful about this thing called the spotlight effect. And the spotlight effect, if you've ever heard of it, is when you take control of a situation that has gone wrong. For example, I was on some video calls the other day and thought the filter was wrong, but it wasn't. It was just a huge spot on my face that was there for about 3 or 4 days. And concurrently, for every call, I had to say, I'm really sorry, but I brought a friend along, and there they are. So the spotlight effect that I want to own today is that we're doing good work and we're doing the best that we can, but there's other people doing other different things as well. And this is just one story of how we've done what we want to do and what we've achieved. So the context, firstly, is this, is we cannot get away from technology, and I really do not want to talk about any sort of specific technologies, particularly generative technologies, that are coming out. But I do want to tell you a story that I was on a call with what I thought was one person, which lasted for about 30 minutes, and I thought the conversation went really, really well. I got off the call. About half an hour later, I got an email that popped into my inbox to say, here's a transcription of your meeting. And I was like, oh, that's very helpful. That's great. And then there were some lines in there that I didn't say. So, of course, I went to the bit and started to search for my name. And it turned out there was 3 other people on the call with me who were listening in. And also they were feeding back about how I presented in the call. And the first thing that they said was, he was so calm. And I was like, that's a really nice thing to say. But then they continued, he could put anyone into a coma. So I'm hoping by the end of today, I'm not going to put you into a coma. The next thing that they said was, you were right about his personality. I'm not sure he has one. So I was able to phone that person straight away and have that really crucial conversation about what integrity looked like. And I saw that was deleted straight away. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we can be focused on technology and we can be driven by technology. And throughout this program, there's loads of stuff around all the new technologies that are coming up. But I found this quote from Margaret Atwood, and it rings true because actually, first thing, technology is not just about digital. We know technology has been threaded into our society for years and years and years, but there's something that we have to uncover and unpick and remain human in our interaction as we evolve in our work lives, in our society. And this is my premise, that we need to continue and be focused on the needs of our people, of our learners, of our staff, and create things and systems and moments that are life-changing for them. And I believe that we can do it. And I believe that if we keep focusing on the human, then we will continue to do what we do really well. Technology puts us into a place I think is really interesting. It puts us into this existential place where we begin to ask, who am I and what do I do? And we've seen that through the Industrial Revolution, and we're beginning to see that now. And I think it's a really helpful place to be in that existential place. Existentialism is a really helpful place to be because it makes us unpick things. And that why question, I was reading a book called Psychologizing. I'll just double check the author. That slipped from my mind. But the book, in the book they said, when we ask why, we're demanding answers from the universe. When we ask why, we're demanding answers from the universe. And I love that. I love that we're sitting at this point of time and we have to ask ourselves, why? What are we doing? What's important? and leave us into this existential place. So, into some of the practical. This is Circle Health Group. I didn't design the slide, actually. One of my team who's in the front designed this for me because they're far better. Circle Health Group is the largest independent healthcare provider in the UK. These are some of the stats. We cover all the way from Aberdeen down to Bath to Canterbury, even in South Wales as well. I shouldn't say even in South Wales, including South Wales. So you can see that these are some of the numbers, and actually what is really important in this group is how care and how our services are experienced by our patients, and importantly, how our staff experience it. Learning is an absolute pivotal strategy to make sure that staff have a really positive experience, and we've seen that drive from our engagement results hugely, and learning is pivotal to how staff experience and have a good experience in the business. So let me tell you a bit of a story. Is when I came into the business 5 years ago, I was given a learning management system with a partner that wasn't very interested in us, and we tried to have those tough conversations. And really, when I was looking at the system which we had, it was really fragile, significantly fragile. So the data didn't make sense. There was things all over the place. You could access different things. And there was like me sitting in an office by myself in London going, oh my goodness, how do I do this? Like, I'm not really sure how to fix this. And I couldn't find an image. And actually, Therese and I tried to do this on Canva. The better image to think of our situation, it's like a 16-story building, and on the 8th floor, there was a random garage or outhouse or glass house with stilts below. That's what it felt like, and every click I would do, and every so often it would just shut down, and there'd be some complaints about what was going on. So we had to have a look at how do we facilitate learning best in the business, and we had to rely on tech. What was most painful is my boss and I were walking through our head office, and the CEO, who is a medic and pathologizes, turned up to us in the corridor and says this: "I don't trust the data and the information you give us," which put us in a really difficult position. We had this system that people liked, but it kind of worked, but didn't really work for what we needed to do. And also, our senior stakeholders said something quite cutting like this. And when I was thinking about this, some of you might be in this position, and this is who I was talking to in this presentation. And hopefully, if you're not those people, there's still something in it. But another premise is it has to be all about the people. It has to be all about the people. Everything that we do, every interaction that we have, has to be about the people. And I know that some of my team are here now. It's like when we get reports that come through an email to say, this bit doesn't work, my premise and my focus is always that that is a person that we need to help and fix and resolve and make sure that their experience is right. So everything that we do has to be about people in mind, people first, and then from that, things come. What I also want to say, and I believe, is that there is a power in the analog. I think there's a significance, and I think as we see our world increasingly digitalized, there will be a power in reclaiming analog experiences. And we have to embrace that. And something that I came across on Twitter, I don't know if you follow this person, is actually made a point and said that these analog clocks have increased in sales. And what was really interesting is because I have one beside my bed because I was kind of doom scrolling at 11 o'clock at night, or like going into a Wikipedia hole of what Jerusalem syndrome was and what happened, or something like that. And so there is a balance to be struck, is as we move into more of a digital world, let's embrace and let's focus on the power of the analog. The other thing just to consider before we move on to some of the practical things is Ulrich, who's a seminal psychologist, he came up with an experiment of someone standing at the side of a pitch and asking people to watch someone pass a ball between people wearing black shirts and white shirts and asked them to count it. And then halfway through, there was a person that walked through with a red umbrella. And the real experiment was, did you notice the person in the red umbrella? And mostly people said no, they didn't notice it. And the gorilla experiment is a really good example. You can Google that on YouTube. Is there are things that are in our midst that we're not seeing, and there are things that are in our midst that are the umbrella, and we need to grab onto those opportunities because they're the things that potentially could be life-changing for the people that we work with and that we seek to serve. That said, so here's the thing. This is where we were. We had a learning management system, compliance, it was click and tick. I had to be very careful with that, and I did check out with Teresa if I had to change the font. Click and tick was our focus. It had unreliable data, and that was really difficult, and the business saw it as necessary. Just coming back to this data point, one of the big mistakes that I made was we had essentially 3 data sets across the business about people, and we made a decision in conjunction, but I was the one that did it, to harmonize them all to one and use the HR data set. In reality, our data was the most accurate across the business, and we just made that change overnight. Top tip, never, ever, ever do that because it will cause you 6 months of work and pain, but actually, it got us to the right place, and now we never hear that thing of the data isn't right. What we are driving now, with the help with our tech and with our partners, is that we have a really holistic perspective on what learning and talent looks like, from the variety of tools that we've put in. So there's lots of diagnostic tools, feedback tools, coaching and mentoring, competencies, skills matrices. I'm just trying to think what else we have. User-generated learning, and all of those things contribute to what the learning experience looks like. And I think a very interesting thing was, in this environment, the thing that you logged onto when the platform was your compliance rates. And we made a very intentional move to, people had to click 3 times to get to that now. So the landing page is different. And I know that's arguable, and you could maybe say that's not right, but it helps us shift how we present learning in the business. From unreliable data to this insightful, business-critical information and data. And actually, people are now coming to us for information. And where we are now is not just because of this, but because of everyone's effort. We're wanted and needed in the business. So compliance. Right, Stuart, I'm hoping for a second song. Hoping for good vibes. So let's, again, chat to the person next to you. Enjoy the song. What's your view on compliance training? Off you go. Have a chat to the person next to you, or just throw it into Menti. Menti.com and then put that code in. Let's get some answers. Great, boring. Lovely. Thank you, Stuart.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. More than power, never. Ever after work is over. Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. Work it harder,
Thank you very much. Thanks, Stuart. Nice choice. Thank you. I'm just thinking if compliance training was a person, we wouldn't want them in the room right now, would we? And I think a lot of people do have this response to compliance training. And I think you're right. There's things about it being boring, disengagement. It's focused on the regulatory, resource hungry in terms of, I presume, in terms of time. A bad advert for learning. That's interesting. Should be tested out. I think that's tested out, maybe. Not engaging. And I think there's always an opportunity to fix compliance learning. And even one of the conversations that we're having right now with some of our suppliers is that we want to help transform how compliance learning is experienced and felt. Because in a regulatory business, it's somewhat necessary. But coming back to these points here, you're absolutely right. And I was sitting back in that office in London by myself, thinking about that 16-story flat and when it was going to fall down, holding all this compliance for the business. And particularly when the regulators come into our hospitals, it was really significant. And I would say the compliance for us, regardless that we've just kind of slagged that person off, was really significant because we had to get it right. We had to get it right, but it was taking up, and there was someone who said on there, too much time, and it was taking up, I would say about 80% of my job was based on compliance training, and I was drained by it. It was so boring to even manage it, and all the spreadsheets that came with it, and all this kind of stuff. And actually, we've got to a place now where I think, and my assessment is, compliance takes up 5% of our work now, which is really great. And I want to tell you a story of how we got there. But I want to tell you that through the medium of a seagull. Does anyone like seagulls? I did see someone on Twitter saying how they really like seagulls. No one likes seagulls? One person says they're okay. Interesting. Let's have a conversation afterwards. I live by the coast, and about 3 years ago, bear with me, please work with me on this. I live by the coast, and about 3 years ago, my partner and I got a puppy called Smudge, and he's a little Cocker Spaniel, full of life, loves a walk and loves a sniff. But obviously, as he was a puppy, we had to walk him about 6 or 7 times a day. What has this got to do with compliance training? You're asking yourself. I'll come back to this in a very short second. And I, as working from home for most of the time, had to take Smudge out, but it was seagull breeding season. And I think also I dyed my hair blonde as well. I think that has some significance to this. So the seagull could spot me down the road and could see me walking Smudge. And there was just like this very, very, very angry seagull that would just kind of dive bomb for me every single time. So I tried to cross the road, but it saw me coming, and I think it had an association with me. And at one point, I was hiding underneath a tree, going, oh my goodness, I'm a 30-year-old man hiding underneath a tree from a seagull. How has my life come to this? So it got to the point where I was like, I'm going to have one-upmanship between the angry seagull. So as I left home, I grabbed the nearest thing that I could at the door, which was, well, it was actually a stick. The kind people at the Excel has given me this broomstick. So just for comedy purposes, please follow with us. And I was walking along the road, like wiping the road like this so the seagull would not get me. And again, I was just like, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? Eventually, the seagull did move on, and we could move on with our lives. But again, what have seagulls got to do with compliance training is that it is possible for us to look in the business and go, oh my goodness, there's such an inconvenience, and we work our way around it and try and find different ways and tools just to get the job done and get the journey right. We just kind of go, oh, we're going to beat it with a stick. We're going to do that. But if we get it right and we do it really, really well, it can help L&D become a trusted partner. And actually what I should have done is just not walk down that street with a seagull. I should have just walked down another street where the seagull wasn't there in the first place. So don't try and navigate round something and beat it up or do something, but actually do it really well. And this is what we went to do from an 80% utilization of our time on compliance to kind of 5%. The first thing was validated job titles. That was really important. Agreed taxonomy of terms, so that was quite painful to sit down with people in HR and go like, oh, it's an M dash or an M dash. That was really important to do. Set audience segmentation was really, really important, and using in the back end of the LMS. Absolutely transparent reporting, and in the business, anyone can go and see anyone's mandatory training or appraisal rates at any time, including the CEOs. So there's some interesting emails that I have to send to some people to be like, hi, please sort this very quickly because everyone can see this. Governance and policy controls was really significant because I don't know why, but everyone associates learning with behavior change. And mandatory training is not always going to make behavior change. And interestingly, someone did ask me, oh, Kevin, what do you do in the business? And a lot of my job is to stop training being given to people. And that's okay for you to be that person to go, no, you don't need to do this training. It's not essential. It's not going to make a change. And then the last thing, and this is a really, really interesting blog from Spotify about data. And actually getting it right with your data. So they use this phrase, not watering the lawn with bottled water. You'd water a lawn with water from a tap, wouldn't you? You wouldn't use the best water on a lawn. And actually with your data, use the right tools and use the right level of resource to get your data right. So this helped us transform and release so much time for us to be able to do the next thing. So technology and partners. The first thing we did from the partners that were not really interested in us is that we went out to market, and I saw it a bit like Tinder, or I don't really know what's a dating app these days, Hinge, or something like that. So I just spent time with lots of providers and digging underneath what their proposition was, because it's really, really important that the partner and you get along, and that was an experience that we learned from our first partner. And the second thing that was really significant for us was to keep building onto the technology that you do. And one of the mistakes that maybe people have is that they don't put money into the budget for development every year. And that's really, really important that in your line, and however you want to do that creatively, it might be a service budget, top tip. But that's really important, is when a need arises and you can act really quickly and be agile and do that development, that's really significant, and that's put us into a really good space. The next thing with providers is be really careful about how they market themselves, and be really careful about how the learning technology market presents that back to us, because it is a market, and there is an economy involved in learning tech, and just because they're on the top grid doesn't make them the best platform. And I love this tweet from Rob Reiner, who's just saying, oh, here's a magic quadrant now. It's not just a 9-box grid, it's a magic quadrant. And another really interesting, and I won't name the provider, is I saw a CEO of a learning management platform really dissing these 9-box grids for learning technology, saying we'll never ever spend our money on this. Lo and behold, a few months later, that platform suddenly ended up on that 9-box grid. And it just tells you something about the market. And it's not to say that the market is it's skewed or whatever, it's just a market. So get to know the people, spend time with them, get to know what their value base is, get to know what their expertise is, and get to see if they want to work with you. And that's really important. So don't be fooled by this thing. So last thing, skills, data, and learning. Let me just show you some of the stuff that I think is making a difference to people's lives in our area of work at Circle Health Group. So I just want to show you, begin with a promo video of our work. So what we've done is we've moved beyond that compliance learning and keep that as an integrated element. And there's some things that we have done, and this is some of the feedback that we've received from our colleagues, which I would never ever think that what we've done has made a difference, but this was really powerful, that employee resource group or someone in the business created these resources and threw them up on our front page, and then this was the feedback that we got, that someone was seen and visible and acknowledged in their work and in their identity and their work. And I think that's incredibly powerful. You never know what your work is going to have an impact on. And this person actually did say in here, oh yeah, they've shared it with some of their colleagues as well. The next one was about the face-to-face induction materials that we created. Again, it was a piece of work that we created, but then this is one of our executive directors saying that reflected a real tone change in the business. And we just merrily create the resources and then move on to the next piece of work. But we know that this is creating an impact in the business from this type of feedback that we get. Let me just show you this video. So there's no sponsorship from McDonald's there, but what I like about this video, and it was Hannah from, I think it's IMUS Marketing, who's a marketing agency for L&D, says this video is brilliant, the McDonald's video is brilliant, because actually at no point do they show the product, and it's only at the very end they show the logo, and there's something really powerful in their tool, because they're saying people know the product, they know the value of it, they know what's coming to it, and that's really part of our vision for learning, is that we don't just have to say this is the product, but people see beyond that. And from all our work that we have done, this is one of the next initiatives that we're just about to throw out into the business, which we're running in June for the first time, is that we're creating labs for people where they can think about their development. And we've got a two-pronged approach with this. One is to be very, very inclusive and intentionally inclusive for people that are super engaged with their learning and just want to think about their development for the next year. They might be the best patient administrator that our business has ever had, and that's where they want to stay, and that's brilliant. The next thing that we want to do is start to, through the system that we have got, is that we want to start to capture mobility data. Well, we'll be catching mobility data, ambition, aspiring role, matching that to skills, and then in about, I think, about a year, we will have a much more intelligent conversation with the business about where the next key roles are. And this has all been back from that place where the platform has been really fragile, and we're now becoming that strategic player in the business where learning, ability, skills, and mobility are all coming together, and we do that through our platform, which is mentioned there, and our partner, which is mentioned there. And again, they were really important for us to get right. And I'll just leave you with this is our kind of key focus and key drive in terms of this piece of work about how we bring skills and learning and data together. And remember, we're on that journey. If it was a marathon, we're kind of still training for that marathon. And I think in about a year's time, we're going to be running that marathon and giving something back to the business. So the first thing is a really important piece of work around skill taxonomies, which we're just doing right now. But what's really significant for us is actually how skills and learning attach to each other. So if you really want to learn you're the best tea maker in the business, we can capture that, and that would push you through the information that you need, or we know that you're the expert, the knowledge expert in there. So we're starting to begin that piece of work now around the skill taxonomy piece of work and actually how they're all related and interrelated. And the next thing, which is beyond my technical expertise, and I'm now on a data integrity governance committee, which I'm not sure I ever imagined that I would ever be on such a committee, but I am, is that all our learning is going to be linked to a data warehouse. And what that will then provide is powerful analytics and joined up systems. And we've started to do that now, and we're starting to do that big piece of work right across the business, where all the conventions and namings and all that kind of stuff will come together. To the point, and the vision is that if something happens in the risk system, it will feed through to the learning system because all that data is connected somehow. And very practically, that's how I see that. But what's really, really important is that for us, it's about human decision making. And even coming back to those people development labs, we've given data back to the business. But what we've said is, do you know what? This is going to be about 60% accurate, 50% accurate. You need to use your own local knowledge to come back about how to make opportunities for people about decision making. So what's really important is that everything that we do, everything that we touch is about people. Everything that we do helps contribute to the changes in lives that we are involved in, the experience of our staff and of our learners. And where I want to finish is a story by one of our members of staff that has benefited from all the resources thrown to her in the business. It's about 2 minutes long, but 100% it is worth listening to. So I'm going to leave you with this before my final slide.
Hi, my name is Natalie Harper, and I am an assistant practitioner from the Runnymede Hospital in Chertsey, that's based in Surrey. I am passionate about my work because I love what I do. I'm originally from a social care background where I gained knowledge and skills which empowered me to want to go further and develop. As I gained experience through my work, I became sure that my dream was to work within a clinical setting, and that 8 years ago. I started as a healthcare assistant for Circle Health Group. It gave me the opportunity to really find my niche and establish where I could use my strengths to excel. Caring for people is something that I find natural and easy. Circle Health Group gave me a fantastic opportunity not only to better myself, but enabled me to improve the experience of our patients. One of my most memorable experiences has been restarting education after many years away from it, and the excitement of being put forward to start a university degree by Circle Health Group. I learnt that you are never too old to learn, adapt and change. Take the opportunities offered. I still pinch myself that the company I work for has invested in me and valued me as an employee so much. Working for Circle Health Group has changed me as an individual. I am on a journey which not only enhances my life, I'm contributing to my team and the patients where I am making a difference. I started with an 18-month Level 3 apprenticeship in health and social care, which I studied part-time alongside my role as a HCA on a medical and surgical ward. On completion of this, I was fortunate enough to be accepted on a foundation degree. I never thought that someone like me, at 48 years of age, would be going to university. The experience was amazing, but it also sparked a change for me. The more knowledge I gained, the more I realised I wanted to learn. I was able to share my knowledge at work and put it into practice. So I'm not only improving the outcomes for the patients, but becoming a more experienced member of staff. I am now a third-year student on an adult nursing apprenticeship and still amazed that I've come this far. My personal and professional journey keeps me inspired to continue and develop within the Circle Health Group. I know that having faith in what I can achieve and following my passion is the best way to reach my goal. I keep telling myself not to give up and I can do this. To others, I would say Circle Health Group helped me to grow and supported me to become what I am today. Believe in yourself that you can do it. What we do is change people's lives. If a manager or mentor sees your potential and is willing to open doors to invest in you, my advice is to embrace the opportunity, work hard and be a success.
I love that video because it reminds me of what we actually do. So behind all those spreadsheets and business cases and conversations, there's people like that where their lives are changed as a result of the structures and the processes you put in place. And how powerful it is when you start to listen to those stories and hear those stories. And if you're stuck behind your computer trying to manage all this, go and spend some time with those people. So the offering from what I'm saying to you today is focus on the people, and focus on the people so much that you get your technology and your systems right. Focus on it so there's opportunities for everyone in the business, and use things like data and the best systems and tools to create environments where people do get change. If you wouldn't mind, I just want to finish by reading a poem by Whitman, who is one of my favorite poets, and it's called The Voice of the Rain. And I want to share it with you because I think it represents probably why we're all in a room today, because someone at some point has invested in us. And I think we have a responsibility and a job to invest back into other people. So Whitman, the voice of the rain, and who art thou? I said to the soft falling shower, which strange to tell gave me an answer as here's translated. I am the poem of the earth, said the voice of the rain. Eternal I rise, impalpable out the land and the bottomless sea, upward to heaven, whence vaguely formed, altogether changed, and yet the same. I descend to lave the droughts, the anatomies, the dust layers of the globes, and yet all that in them without me were seeds, only latent, unborn. And this is the line I really want to highlight. And forever, by day and night, I will give my life back to my own origin and make pure and beautify it. For song issuing from its own birthplace, after fulfillment wandering, wrecked or unwrecked, duly with love returns. And forever, by day and night, I give my life back to my own origin. And everything that we do, every interaction, every click, every system is giving something back to someone else. For someone like Natalie or whoever it was, because their lives do change the result of the things that we put in. So thank you so much for, one, humbling me and allowing me to do this today. And secondly, thank you for listening as well. If you do want to connect with me, here is all my stuff. Therese, I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, great job. And it's really great as well that we don't often hear about the people side of things, do we? It's all about the tech and all the stuff that's going on downstairs. So to hear those human stories. I was going to say, do you want to say a little bit more about, you told me a little bit more about that lady that you shared, because she also has a disability as well, doesn't she? That probably wasn't clear.
I didn't know that, but she was partially deaf. Thank you.
Sure.
She was partially deaf. She had a lot of caring responsibilities as well. So the systems and the structures that we put in place in the business really transformed her life. And when she came in to do that video, oh my goodness, it's like she was coming to Buckingham Palace because she was so thankful, and just to say thank you. And that really, really taught me a lesson of actually every interaction that we have impacts someone like that.
Thank you. Do we want to go back to the Menti at
Yeah,
the
let's do
beginning
that.
for checking that we've covered off all of the areas on?
There's 30 questions. Do you want to pick one?
Yeah, do we want to maybe vote, or maybe some of them have been covered, or if anyone's got any questions in the audience while you look for them. Anyone got any questions? Yeah, sure.
Thanks for that session, Kevin. It was excellent. A chef's kiss for the poem at the end. I loved it.
Thanks.
When I was working with a lot of different organisations, large, complex organisations, that almost all of them, I'm talking even at times Google, the tech stack is broken. Like in many places, the different tech systems aren't speaking to each other.
Yeah.
How much did you have to just make your system work for the organisation in a way that ignored the other messiness, or did you have to become a change maker and influence other people to get their systems to speak to yours in a smarter way?
Yeah, well, actually, it's very interesting you say that, because we had someone from one of the big consulting companies, because we just showed everything that we've got in our system, and they went, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And I was thinking they came from KPMG, PwC, they would have the best systems, but they don't because of what you're saying. I think there is a strategy of being an irritant. I am an irritant, and I would just go, this needs to change, and manage that carefully so your reputation wasn't hurt. But also finding the right people that had that vision. And I think what was most important, because of a regulatory perspective, risk was a massive leverage for us. So I would always just identify the risk of this is going to impact us at some point. But we were able to leverage that with when we had a merger and some investment. And then there's the right people in the right place. I wasn't the only voice, but I found those people. But I think practically, try and be a gentle irritant. Should we pick one of these questions off you?
I'll go for one just before we do that then. And actually, there was a variation on that question in there, so I'll reframe it. I love the whole human approach to it. And I was thinking about the connection between that and the data. What was the sort of what was the missing data or the data that was most useful either to you or to your employees in unlocking those pathways and that more human-centric approach? Yeah,
I think at the beginning there was even a discrepancy between what a job title looked like. That was really important. And I think that's a basic thing of like what someone's job title was. We had to validate that. The thing that we are missing and we're just gathering now is what's beyond the job title, because you could segment on job title, but you don't know beyond that what's doing. So it's about their skill, their area of practice, their mobility, their ambition, and that's what we're just about to collect now. And I think that's all the things that we know that will make a bit of a transformation in the business. And even my colleague James and he's about to roll out a big piece of digital transformation, is that we don't know past the job title really what people do in a central way. So we can start to gather that data and then start to really personalize the experience through things like skill scans and then match that against the skills. So that's the thing that is still a huge gap, but we're doing that now to gather that. Does that answer the question? Great.
Can we bring the Menti?
Oh, it's here. It's on my screen.
It's on your screen, yeah.
What should I do?
You.
Is that screen frozen? Oh. That's weird, isn't it?
Any more questions?
There's questions here like, what does integrating look like for deskless workers? And I don't know what the answer to that is. I think it's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Because things like Teams would say that they're focusing on the frontline worker, but I'm not entirely sure that beyond knowledge workers, people embrace that kind of technology very easily. So I just think that's a good question. I don't know what the answer is. Someone else might have the answer to it.
Someone who I'd recommend if people don't follow is Gary Cookson. He's done a lot of work around hybrid learning.
Yeah.
So he's very popular on Twitter and LinkedIn, and he's doing a lot of work with the CIPD around that as well.
Oh, here we go.
Ah, great.
Do you want to pick one of these questions?
Oh, where did you get your jacket? Who's done that? That's
Oh,
one
I
of the,
tell you, I
one of the
just
team.
can't remember. Somewhere. A place called Wax.
Online or shop?
No, it's a shop. Well, I think they're online.
Okay.
But it's a shop in London.
How's
Wax.
it spelled? What as in WAX?
WAX. Yeah.
Okay. Style guru.
There we go. If anything, I'm like the Gokwan of the learning industry.
Yeah.
That's probably an irrelevant reference now, isn't it?
Yeah. Look at what. We've got the one about how can we more easily support learning in the flow of work, and I was chairing a session around that yesterday. So I don't know whether you've done, because I've had a chat with you about what I saw yesterday from McKinsey, didn't I? About
Yeah.
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 So is that anything that you're
Yeah, I think
doing
the
in your
business.
organisation?
Yeah, I think actually we did some research with our partner University of Liverpool, John Moores, and what they saw was what was really important. It comes back to the whole premise is about the importance of networks and communities. And even through a leadership development program, people were able to connect through that and through action learning sets that we facilitated in the business and used tech to help facilitate. But the most powerful thing was about communities of practice and networks of everything. So I think that was quite an insightful piece of work that we now need to facilitate further in the business about how we do action learning and provide communities of practice and networking through the technologies that we have.
Okay, what else have we got there? How do we effectively focus on teachable skills? I don't know who asked that, whether they could explain a little bit more about what they mean by that.
I've heard a lot, I suppose, during the conference about people doing skills mapping. It seems to be, a topic of conversation. It's something that we're thinking about as well. But the whole activity of mapping those skills, but then filtering that down to what is actually appropriate to try to teach versus other ways of those skills being acquired or measured. So that was where the question came from.
Is the question about how do you teach those skills, or is it the more
Identifying which
which
skills.
ones you can teach? Yeah. Again, I think what the process that we're going through now is that we know that every skill can't be taught. It has to be, it can't be taught in a training environment. It has to be work-based, and I know maybe you could say competencies are a bit old school, but mapping competency and experience to skill is really important, and work-based opportunity. I think project management is a really good example of this, because people want to go and get the Prince2 qualification or their Agile qualification, and they're a brilliant project manager, but it doesn't mean it. Do you know what I mean? They need to get involved in it and do it and make mistakes, lose some money, do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, and then they learn it. And I think that's where things like work-based opportunities come in, and that's what our work now is, mapping our level of competence and skill to things like read a policy, that is enough. Secondly, do this piece of work, be coached and mentored in this piece of work. And then we'd start to look at training courses, because I think all those things are more valid. Does that help? I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. Add in.
When you're about to embark on skills gapping, I think it is so daunting. And then you get to maybe 600 or 800 skills and you think, my God, where's this going? How am I going to manage it? But I do think it's an exercise that has to be done. It is long-winded, but it's so crucial that we stop, even creating recruitment in the way that we do, focus on job titles rather than when none of us know what the job titles even mean and what do they actually do.
Yeah.
So then we can translate it into real experiences. So it is daunting, I would say, and anyone I've spoken to is still struggling with it. But I think begin the work. I'd get stuck in is my advice.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it anxiety around it? Is that the feeling? I'm just interested. Okay, sorry.
Thanks for the question.
I think go for how can disparate systems talk to each other, because that's an ongoing challenge, that interoperability.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important. I think it's about, I think someone beyond HR needs to own that, and I think that needs to be a business decision, and that has now happened. And again, it needs to be governed really well and managed really well, and things like data warehouses are significant to make that happen. So all that data feeds in there and speaks to each other. And I think very practically that there has to be unique identifiers against people or buildings or skills and things like that. So people know what they are, and there's key terms and definitions. And of course there's things like APIs and data flows and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's about working with the people who know about that stuff technically to go, is the effort worth it? So if you're not in a business that is doing that really well, try and find the person. There will be someone who knows about it somewhere, either in the business or who's a friend of yours somewhere, and start to be that champion for change, because it's so critical that all those systems connect to each other in some way.
Where did that lead link to your decision-making process as well in choosing those partners? Was that a key part of it?
Yeah, definitely. Because one of the things is that we've just procured one of the big HR systems, and there was a challenge that our own systems would be taken over, but we wanted to make sure that that could connect to anything else, and it was really important that it did, and it did. And I think there are some key questions of, are there data flows? Do you understand what APIs are? Are you SCORM compliant? All that kind of stuff. And if they look in a clouded fashion, walk away from them. And there are people, learning technology partners out there who don't understand what those things are. And if they've got a really good data team, that's a good thing. And our partner does understand the data. So, and there are, as I say, if we've got partners that don't understand those questions, I tend to go, let's not work with them, because it's really important to get those things right.
That probably leads us to quite a few questions on data. I know that you covered some of that. So there's one about choosing the data that you do gather, but you don't know what you might find. And then there was another data question further up as well. How do you make data say something useful about skills?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we're unpacking now, particularly with our leadership management cohort, is about, because a lot of it is, our choice is self-reported, so you're going to have a level of bias in that. And I think it's really important to balance that against an evidence base, and the whole like CIPD's evidence-based thing of, you've got organizational data, you've got kind of academic data, your own experience. I can't remember what the fourth quadrant is, but I think going through that cycle and making a sensible, pragmatic decision from what you've got is really important. One of our partner universities called us pracademics, and I really like that phrase because it's taken a practical view on the information that you've got. So my answer is like, be a pracademic about what you've got, because again, coming back to Spotify's data thing, you're never, ever, ever going to have 100%, everything 100%. So bear that in mind. It's never going to be perfect because things move on quickly. So be comfortable with the ambiguity of the data that you have and make a realistic assessment of that and be a pracademic. I think there's some answers.
Yeah.
That would be my response to that.
If you've got anything else on there, is there any questions that it's evoked for anyone else in the audience with what they've heard so far?
Sorry, maybe just touching on one of the last points you were discussing on finding champions, on that sort of change management piece. You started the talk saying that when you came in to the company, you know, it wasn't the best system, it didn't pull the best data, but it was necessary.
Yeah.
How did you manage that change? And can I just maybe clarify as well, did you change LMS systems or sort of the systems that were utilising? Yeah,
we did, and that we were really scared about that. It was like giving all your contents to a removal company and hoping it just turns up. It was really scary because I was like, oh no, 8 years worth of data, where's that going to go? I don't think I'm the best at being subtle. And I think obviously your sponsorship buy-in from your immediate line manager is really important for them to understand it. And obviously you're often, if you're a more technical person, your line manager will not be technical, so that they understand that. And again, I think this is a useful tactic, was not trying to fix things with plasters because you wanted to get it right, and allowing other parts of the business to fail because it identified the issue that you needed to make. So, for example, with HR data, I could have went and fixed that and cleaned it up and fixed it for them, but I didn't. And that was quite painful for me because it looked like I was failing, but it showed the need of the wider business. So it was quite well, maybe it's quite strategic, but allowing other people to fail. And then also, a big thing, have your business case ready. Like, have it written already. And that was a lesson I learned from one of my colleagues who was an army man. Like, have it ready. And when they start to ask, you have it. And you go, this is the options that you can go down. So I think there were some of the things beyond just all the basic things that you do, like influencing, stakeholder management. But that allowing other people to fail was a big risk, particularly in a big company, and particularly when you're regulated. But it was quite important. Does that help?
Sorry, may I just ask a follow-up? When you actually then decided to move on from one system, get another one going, now you have an LMS and it looks like a talent solution from what I saw briefly. Who did you engage within the organisation to help you then implement these new systems and become your own champions?
Excuse me. We've got because we're a multi-site business, we've got a devolved model of there's an identified person with responsibility to look after the operations of that product on site. That's got benefits but huge drawbacks. But it is what it is, and we use that. That was really important. And the importance thing was just general levels of communication, going through the exec, going through the next level of management, and then drip feeding, and actually just using a kind of product mentality of like, here's a little bit, the next bit's coming. And actually, do you know what? We didn't get the launch absolutely right. There was like clicks that didn't work. There was things that didn't pull through properly. But we just communicated and over-communicated, and said the same thing time and time again in different places. So they were the kind of people that we did. So we had on site, I don't like the word champions because I think it takes advantage of people's time, but they've got allocated time to support and then work through the channels of the business to kind of communicate how that was done.
Thank you. Any more questions? No, we're going to hang around a little bit, aren't we? So if you do want to come up and chat with Kevin, you can do. But it's tea and coffee again, and the final session, and then for those that want it, drinks at the end as well. I think we've earned them. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Kevin.
Thank you.
It's a great session.